Crystal, that is I. I just naturally started talking about the 7 phases of intention yesterday by Wayne W. Dyer from his book The Power of Intention. He's a brilliant spiritual teacher. It helped me a lot. It was my first spiritual book I ever read, gifted to me by my wonderful brother many moons ago now. And yesterday I talked about one of those faces of intention, as he calls them, and that was beauty. And, the importance of seeing beauty in what you see around you in the world, like beauty on the inside, beauty on the outside, like how beauty brings aliveness to us. And I'm not talking about the marketed version of beauty and the beauty industry and, like that's all manufactured. It's what really lights your soul on fire when you see it or feel it or sense it in some way. Beauty is not only visual, it's felt, it's sensed in all the ways. And they're talking about that. I thought, why not just go through all 7 phases of intention? It took me a long time because I made myself a little acronym so I could remember all 7, and I always like 7, okay, and I'd get to 6 and I couldn't remember the last one, and it would be a different one frequently. I think I finally got to the point in my life. I had them stuck on my wall for a long time. Excuse my naked knee, that's outrageous. Calm down. My medieval dress is supposed to be more put together than this. It's not a marathon. Anyway, the silliness. Silliness is not one of the faces of intention, but I feel like it could be an 8th one. That's just for me. Anyway, side note. So I finally figured out a little acronym for myself so that I could memorize the faces of intention, because I found it so helpful to remind myself to intend into my life with these 7 phases of intention. So yeah, beauty was today's one. Today I'm going to just start at the start of my acronym again. My acronym is not the craziest. It's got a word in it and then a couple of letters at the end because I couldn't figure out a way to make them into all into a word. But funnily enough, it's actually in my business name, part of it. So the acronym is CLEAR, KB. Now I've already done B, beautiful, beauty. I'm going to go back to C now. So CLEAR KB. That's just a little acronym I made up for myself to try and make sure I could remind myself of the first letter of each of the 7 phases and be able to bring it up at any given moment. So C stands for creativity. Creativity. Intention of creativity. Intention of creating. That's what we're here for. What else? We are creators. And we get to choose how creative we are and what we create, what we lean into. And there's times that those creations are collaborative, so we only have so much like power with them. I won't say power over, but power. We're really more talking from an empowerment point of view here, so I won't say empowerment, like so power with rather than power over. But yeah, we have this incredible incredible ability to be creative, and and often I think in this world we feel like we need to fit into certain boxes and ways of being and structures and systems and dynamics to um, and then kind of fit in our creativity around that if we're lucky, if we get around to it, if we have the time, if we have the motivation, the drive, blah 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 blah. No, I mean, even those things, those structures, they all been created by someone. They started as a thought and eventually got brought into the 3D. Like every single thing was created as a thought first and then brought into being, whether by a human or animal or other life force. But we are creators. As humans, we are creators. And I know there's a lot of people that don't resonate with being creative, quote unquote. But I dare say we need to expand our view of what creative, well, being creative even is. I think everyone's got this perception that, well, those people would have this perception that creativity is, you know, painting an artwork or drawing or um, writing a song, you know, that there's not, that, you know, it's not creative to have a conversation in a different way, um, to be really great at networking, connecting people that, you know, then get to collaborate and create things together. It's, like we don't deem it as creative to um, be really brilliant with an Excel document, you know. I mean, sometimes, like some things are creations that have been around for so long or have had people spend so many hours with them in ways that have become feeling very feelingly, ways that have become had the people in a state of feeling bored and feeling it's mundane. Um, and you can see why those creations might not be that exciting anymore. They're not got the light in them, not lighting you up. But they also might be what's ticking the money making along to have you survive, and you know that's all, you know, just part of life, really. But it's also part of your creation. Like you're creating that, you know, you have this job and you show up for that job and you're bored, but you do it, and then you get the paycheck. Like at some point you chose to say yes to that job, and that's how you ended up there, and you keep showing up again. So that's you saying yes to this creation. And obviously, this is a very boring example of how you can use your creative talents. But also sometimes it's necessary because you are just trying to make sure you're fed, your family's fed, um, you have a roof over your head and all that good stuff. Highly recommend all that, by the way. So, yeah, but really, creativity, having, you know, faces of intention, like just reminding yourself, like in small ways in your day, how can you nurture that creativity? How can you think outside the box, think creatively to find ways and pockets and small joys of being creative? And how can you have those small pockets of being creative like bring you more joy? You know, helps you see the beauty and the creativity. You know, like bring in another face of attention there. Um, yeah, there's. I guess it's like um, I like to think basically these faces are just beautiful words describing things that actually intend it that way. Um, and honestly, it's been so long since I read the book that I might be skewing um, how a wonderful way Dyer puts it. But I know that it all it all helps. Like it all helps in this conversation. Just knowing, even if my brain might be a little foggy on exactly how he put it, I know that what I learned has been in my thought patterns for so long now. Like I probably read it, I think last night I may have said the wrong year, but I got home from London in 2015 and my brother gave it to me I think pretty soon after, so it was probably Christmas 2015 or my birthday in 2016, so start of the year. Um, yeah, so about 10 years I've been thinking in this kind of intentions. Not always, not in every moment, but I'll go back and remind myself to think, like, okay, what's my creative lens right now? What's my um, beauty lens, right? Beautiful lens? Like, what's my lens here? Like, how can I see in any given situation the beauty and then also the other five, um, which we'll get to. We will get to. But yeah, creativity is like what we're here for, and in whatever way lights us up, we can be creative with our creativity and create whatever we want, really, within reason. Sometimes it takes a lot of time and resources, and um, yeah, and sometimes it's a lot harder to pull together. But also, if there's something on your heart, a creative project you've been wanting to do for a while, and you keep putting it off and putting it off and putting it off, even though you know it's really important to you, well, what would happen if you just decided to prioritize it and made a plan, and you know you don't have to do it perfectly, but you did some semblance of um, creating a plan to actually have that creative dream come to life, and reach out to the people you need to help you with it if there is anyone, um, and you sit down and do the work of what you need to do in order to create this project. Like what would happen? What could come from that? Also, like, not that there has to be an end goal. Maybe you just enjoy the journey of your creations. You actually don't need to market and sell whatever you're creating. Maybe it's just creativity in the way you show up in your friendships, and you're showing up in a way that just brings a lot of joy and laughter to your friend group. There's so many ways to be creative, like endless ways. And I honestly think it's one of the huge things that really lights us up in our life is finding our ways of being creative and things we're enthusiastic about to like build and nurture that joy. And like when you've actually made something yourself or contributed towards making something and you get to put it out into the world and you're proud of it, there's no better feeling. Look, you may not always be proud of it, let's be honest. Sometimes you put something out and you're like, oh, that's kind of awkward, and oh god, hashtag regrets. But hey, you're putting it out there. You celebrate like the hashtag regrets moments too, because um, like you got to make a ton of mistakes to get the art that and the creations that are really going to speak to people. Um, Likelihood is maybe you nail it first time, but likelihood is you're going to have to make a bunch of mistakes. But also that shows you're human and you're giving things a try and you're like living life, and lean into the embarrassment, like to create anything and become like learn how to create anything. There's a level of embarrassment you have to be willing to accept just to you have a time where you think you're doing alright, but you don't realise you're not bad, and then you look back years later and you're like, oh man, I was not good then. But I'm so grateful for that version of me that showed up and made that art that I now deem as bad, which may have actually been quite good to people around you that would have enjoyed it. But you don't get to the place of mastery, or maybe you don't need to be a master, but you don't get to a place of being good and competent at something by not doing it, by putting it off and putting it off. So, I mean, that's partially why I made this YouTube channel, because I want to speak. I've got so much to share. I want to speak to people, and I found myself feeling claustrophobic trying to do it for a minute or two on Instagram. It wasn't long enough for me. And I found myself having all this wisdom to share from my years of studying coaching and being a complete book nerd for spiritual books and self-development books and just life and storytelling and filmmaking and costume and so many things, and like traveling the world and like meeting new people and networking and experiencing things and doing seminars, and like I just have so much to share that could help others, that maybe they want to do like one facet of what I want to do, or maybe they want to do a couple of facets of what I've already done, sorry, I should say. Um, and if I don't share my story, find a way to share my story, I won't be able to help them. And like, that's okay, I'm sure they'll be fine. They find someone else that shares their story, or they figure it out themselves and go through that. But they might also hear me share a story, and I might save them years from like of trying to get where they're going, um, because they'll get to learn from the ways that I have erred, my mistakes, you know. So yeah. Plus, I just want to share my passion for all these things, and also I really want to help people feel into their core and what's going on for them, and like listen to their truth and learn to listen and sit with their truth, whatever it is for them. Whatever lights them up, what makes them enthusiastic, what makes them so sad, what makes them so angry, that like they're all valid, wonderful things to look at and understand for yourself, to really get to know who you are, because you're the best person in your life to get to know. Like there is no one else. And also you get to, if you don't like where you're at right now, or who you feel like you're being, well, guess what? You are the one, the sole person with the power to change that. So if it feels daunting, well, just can you take that curious lens again? Why does it feel daunting? What would happen if it didn't feel daunting? What if it was someone that I absolutely adore and love, one of my best mates that's like me but not me, and they were feeling the way that I'm feeling about myself, about themselves, and feeling like unaligned with their core and their truth, or realizing how daunting it feels. Like, what would you want for them? Would you want them to take that time with curiosity to look at what's going on for them, and and see, well, okay, maybe I know this and this isn't for me, and I don't really know what's for me, but I'm kind of intrigued and enthusiastic about these kind of things, so maybe I look at search that a little bit more. Wouldn't you want them to have the curiosity enough to explore for themselves, to try new things and cultivate some, like take some actions to cultivate like a lived experience of some of the things that they think could be it, and they'll figure out some of those things maybe weren't it, but they gave it a go, and they get to create the whatever life that is, like whatever, and through doing all that you kind of learn what you do and don't like even more, and you refine it more and more, and just by having that curiosity and willingness to try things and be new and have it be like embarrassing sometimes potentially, but also you can't really be embarrassed if you just choose not to be embarrassed about anything, Um, there, there's times, like, I still get embarrassed, but um, I did realize at some point in my life, I was like, you know what, if I just chose to just own it and not not feel embarrassed about a certain situation, I can just keep on going and like I might like I'll generally have a moment of self-depreciating humor, um, and then I'll just try and move on because I could sit in this embarrassment and just have it paralyze me, or I can keep creating, or I can get curious about what I might want to learn about what I want to create next, or where I want to explore next. I feel like I had a point to come back to, but this is what happens with me. Um, yeah, looking with curiosity, to see if we are on that, and we don't like what we've created in life so far. Just be curious about what lights you up and that. Follow that in small ways. Make time to follow those little nudges, and you can slowly create more and more of a life that feels aligned. But just do it in small ways if it feels too daunting. But like looking at it through the lens of a best friend that's not you but is like you, that might be doing it, like that you have so much love for, it just helps you kind of separate it from yourself and see, oh, if this person's worthy, okay, what if I saw myself through that lens? And you can then relate it back to yourself and see yourself through that lens and just think, well, I'm the only one who has control over my life. I'm the only life I fully have control over in my life. Can I support and nurture myself like I would that best friend? I hope you feel like you can. With curiosity comes possibility. I know I started talking about creativity. I went on a little tangent there, but we like to do that around here. Um, but yeah, being curious about your creativity if you don't feel like you've got it yet, or being curious as to what how you do know that you're creatively expressing yourself, um, and maybe getting curious about, well, maybe you feel like you like to experience the creative um, energy of putting your things out in the world. Maybe you've been hiding from putting your things out in the world. Well, there's a creative energy to putting things out in the world, because then you have the world to create with you what that might become from the world's point of view, or random Bob that's on the internet. Like, they might create how they feel about it. They might create beautiful articles just raving about how amazing your art is, or they might create like K-mail, but also like as long as you're enjoying the creation, you know, you're like it doesn't matter like what the world creates at you, as long as you feel internally happy that use your creativity. Maybe you're happiest in the moments of just making the things, and it's not even about like getting it out there, but that's just kind of an added bonus. So yeah, just looking at how you can view your life and any of the mundane things that are kind of making you feel a little like dying inside vibes. Um, how could you look at them more creatively? Could you walk to your bus stop a different way? Could you, you know, drive the car down a different way? Could you go to a different beach, or like, like, just, that's creative. Like, just choosing to kind of mix it up, um, so that you explore more, that you see more, so you have the opportunity to be surprised by something around the corner that you didn't know was there because you never walked that direction. That's creation. That's life too. To be creative in your thought patterns. If your thought patterns feel too rigid and boring, well, mix it up. Do something different. You know. Anyway, creation. Well, it's 7 phases of intention. Um, Hope you liked it. I also hope you like curiosity, because that always comes up here. It's a very important thing to. That's another one I want to add to my own personal phases of intention. Um, just curiosity. Love it. Anyway, I will leave you there, and I will see you tomorrow for another round.